welcome to the show, y'all.
Yeah, thanks for tuning in, y'all.
E-Lee
Get it, let's get it.
and Uncle Ron.
Let's go.
Keeping it 100, unfiltered. We the radio pundits and we're unfiltered. We gon' give it to you straight, the facts we can debate. But one false move and it's a checkmate. Ay, yes, we the radio pundits and we're
Hey, what up, though? It's your boy, Ernest J. Lee, and we're back live this week for another round of Unfiltered with Ernest J. Lee and Uncle Ron. And it's an absolute joy to come to you in your space from week to week to bring you the latest indie music, trending news, and most of all, relevant topics, y'all. And we do it all with our own brand of humor and comedic flow. We count it a great honor to have this platform, an international platform, I might add, that allows us to discuss the issues and topics that are plaguing our nation and the world. People like facts, and so do we. That's why we come in with the mindset of just saying what it is, y'all. That's why we call this show Unfiltered, because it's our goal to give it to you real and uncut. And yes, we laugh a lot, we have a lot of fun, but even in between all that, you, the listener, can still stay abreast of what's going on and have a laugh or two in the process. Ain't that great? So again, thank you for listening and hanging out with us for this hour every week. So look, please start right now and let someone know that your favorite kinfolks are on the air. And if they don't know the info to log on and listen, then go on and give it to them. Tell them to come on and join the party. Also, if you missed any of our past shows, we have a great solution for you. Simply log on to www.spreaker.com. That's just like speaker, but with an R. Search Ernest J. Lee Unfiltered. There you can follow us and get connected just like that. And for all you iPhone users of the world, you know you can be a part of the action. All you got to do is go to the iTunes store, search the same name, and you can subscribe and connect too. And guess what, y'all? It's all for free. Now, I know that's a blessing. Okay, you know what? I ain't going to start today. But anyway, on a very serious note, we know that this month has been designated as Suicide Prevention Month. And we've been covering this topic from various angles all month thus far, and today is no different. Now, this week, I wanted to delve into some alarming stats as it relates to various groups of people in our society. First up, I'm going to share some rates on teen suicide, as well as a clip to support the facts, because this demographic is one that is amongst the highest in our society today. Also, I'll have Dr. Byron Reese on again to talk about the male component. As we know, generally, males don't like to show signs of weakness. So I wanted to get his take on that area, being that he's a licensed psychologist and a leading voice in identifying male issues today. Also, my brother, Pastor Junaldo Lee, he'll be back to discuss the many rigors of ministry and how they can take a dramatic toll on the leader of a local assembly. As we have seen here lately, y'all, the number of people in ministry and most notably pastors committing suicide has increased over the past years. So look, just sit back with me for this next hour as we get into these very important matters once again. Let me also say thank you to all those who supported the show on last week. What an overwhelming response. We totally appreciate it, and we're so glad that so many of you are tuning in week to week to consume this info from our great panel of brilliant minds that we've selected to participate with us during this month. So you know what? Thank you again. It's really time for the mask to come off and the info to be shared to the masses, y'all. People are genuinely hurting out here, and in their minds, they're running out of options. So I feel as a human being, first, and a man of the faith, second, that it's my job to use this platform to deal with the subjects that have too long been swept under the rug and been labeled taboo, to be honest. But hey, man, it's time out for that. Real talk. So before we get into all the info, let's check out some of this dope music. This is Ernest J. Lee, and it's Unfiltered, y'all. So keep it locked right here.
You are my desire. Let your holy fire burn in me. You are my desire. Let your holy fire burn in me. So burn away everything that's not like you. Then purify me, Lord, until you see your reflection in me. Let me be a burning flame for you. You are my desire.
You are my desire.
Let your holy fire.
Let your holy fire burn.
Let it burn in me, yeah. You are my desire.
You are my desire.
Let your holy fire.
Let your holy fire burn.
Let it burn in me, yeah. So burn away everything
that's not like you.
Purify me, Lord,
Purify me, Lord.
till you see your reflection in me.
See your reflection.
Let me be a burning
Let me be
flame
a burning flame.
just for you. Oh, so burn away everything, God.
Everything that's not like you.
Purify me, Lord,
Purify me, Lord.
till you see your reflection.
See your reflection.
Let me be a burning
Let me be
flame
a burning
just for you.
flame for you.
I wanna be a flame for you. Let me be a flame for you. Burn in me, God. Burn in me. I wanna be a flame for you. Let me be a flame for you. Burn in me, God. Burn in me.
Wanna be a flame
Let
for
me
you.
be a flame.
Let me be a flame for you.
Burn in me, God.
Burn in me,
Oh,
burn in
I wanna be a flame.
Wanna be a flame for
Let me
you.
be a
Let
flame.
me be a flame for you.
Burn in me, God.
Burn in me, God.
Come on, everybody say, I wanna be a flame.
Wanna be a flame
Let
for
me
you.
be a flame, Jesus.
Let me be a flame for you.
Burn in me, Jesus.
Burn in me,
Burn in me, Jesus.
burn in me.
I'm stirring up the gift.
Wanna be a flame
I
for
want you
you.
to burn in me,
Let me
God.
be a flame for you.
Burn in me, Jesus.
Burn in me, God. Burn in me.
Oh, oh, everybody say, oh, yeah, yeah. It's not the cry of your heart. Say, and nobody can put this fire out down. Nobody can put this fire out down. We don't need straight fire, but the Holy Ghost fire. Yeah.
This is Gerard Brooks, and I'm locked in to Unfiltered with Ernest Lee and Uncle Ron. You better listen.
No matter how dark the day or night, always remember that joy is coming in the morning. Yeah, let's go.
He will take away your pain. He will wipe your tears away. Even in your troubled times, He's there.
He won't leave.
He'll never leave.
Never fails. He's there when you
He's
need
there when you need Him. I never see the righteous forsaken, nor his seed begging bread. Your joy comes in the morning. Yeah.
Let's talk to him, Tony. Come on.
I'm so glad to tell you that joy is coming in the morning. And you don't have to worry, 'cause he's already on your side. This is what you gotta do. You gotta keep fasting and praying and believe in God's word. The storm is passing over. I can see the breaking of day. All the high places God is bringing down. Joy comes in the morning. It's coming in the morning.
We got another verse.
Don't you ever get weary.
Don't do it.
Don't you get weary in all of your well-doing. No, no. 'Cause he promised that you would reap if you faint not. No. This is what you gotta do. You gotta keep fasting, praying, and believe in God's word. The storm is passing over. I can see the breaking of day. All the high places, God is bringing them all down.
Let's take it home. Listen.
The storm is passing over, yeah. And joy's coming in the morning. Your destiny is waiting, yes it is. And I can see the breaking of a new day.
The storm is passing over.
It's passing over.
Joy comes in the morning. Your destiny is waiting.
Your destiny is waiting. The breaking of day. The storm is passing over.
Joy
comes in the morning. Yeah.
Your destiny is waiting.
What's up, everybody? It's your boy, Tony Terry. And I keep it locked into Unfiltered with Ernest J. Lee and Uncle Ron on
We're the radio pundits and we're unfiltered.
Hey, this is Ernest J. Lee. You're back live with Unfiltered with Ernest J. Lee and Uncle Ron. Now, those two songs were Flame by Detroit's own Mr. Gerard Brooks and Joy is Coming by yours truly, featuring the great R&B legend, Mr. Tony Terry. Now, both of those songs are available everywhere digital music is sold. Now, let's continue to support indie music, y'all, real talk. Now, listen, if you have any music that you want to submit to this show, go on and send it. Send it to the Unfiltered Radio Show at gmail.com. That's the Unfiltered Radio Show at gmail.com. Send it in, let me check it out, and we'll get it on, all right? All right, now, y'all, today, as I stated earlier, these stats for teen suicide in particular have gradually been on the rise exponentially. In my research, I found out that there's several factors contributing to this problem. One of them in particular that I want to center in on this week is the social media component. Now, you know, all of us enjoy social media. All of us have our own pages and our own stuff that we get into. But you know what? Even as a grown-up adult and a person that's confident, it is hard sometimes to just look and see what's going on social media and not feel some type of way about it. We're all human, and that's something that's just, it is what it is. So imagine a person that's not as mature as us, talking about teens and people that are young adults. Imagine the pressures that they face looking at social media, even on their level. Now, in dealing with this problem, there's one particular emotion that comes to mind when I look at the information I've been looking at, and that emotion is depression. Depression can hit any of us, especially those that are most vulnerable. So think about a child that's maybe dealing with classwork or dealing with fitting in at school or dealing with their sexual identity. Those are things that are contributing to the high rates of suicide in that age group. 1 in 100,000 children ages 10 to 14 die by suicide each year. 7 in 100,000 youth from ages 15 to 19 die by suicide each year. 12.7 in 100,000 young adults from the ages of 20 to 24 die by suicide each year as well. And also, suicide is the third leading cause of death for those 15 to 24-year-old Americans. Wow, that's staggering. That's the third leading cause of death. Lesbian, gay, and bisexual kids are 3 times more likely than straight kids to attempt suicide at some point in their lives. Medically serious attempts at suicide are 4 times more likely to occur among LGBTQ youth than other young people. African American, Latino, Native American, and Asian American people who are lesbian, gay, or bisexual attempt suicide at especially high rates as well. So as you see, these are pressures that our youth are facing every day. I think Pastor Lee said last week, it's time to get in your children's business. You know why? Because they're attempting to handle this life with less experience than we have as adults. So that's why it's so high among their age groups. Suicide among males is 4 times higher. Male deaths represent 79% of all U.S. suicide. Wow. Now, on the other hand, females are more likely than males to have suicidal thoughts. That's because females experience depression at roughly 2 times the rate of men. So consequently, females attempt suicide 3 times as often as males. Now, firearms are the most commonly used method of male suicide, and poisoning is the most common method of suicide for females. Now, think about this. Depression affects 20 to 25% of Americans ages 18 plus in any given year. But only half of all Americans experiencing an episode of major depression receive treatment. Now, I read on a report from a young lady that is a suicide survivor. She contends that children and teens may get overwhelmed by the constant pressure to post and only show the positive things on social media. She says maybe they haven't figured out how to balance in-person social connection with the internet social connection. But we must understand the life of a teenager is even harder than the life of an adult. See, when you're a teenager, you're feeling things for the first time. You don't know how you're going to solve that problem, whatever it might be. Like I just said before, they're trying to solve life with less information that we have and less experience. So it really doesn't matter what it is. If it makes you feel hopeless, it just makes you feel hopeless. That is what it is at that age. And we also got to stop thinking that if we talk about suicide with our teens or talk about depression, that somehow that'll encourage them to do it. That's just not the case. Because teens already think that we don't understand and we don't listen to them. So listening is really, really, really important, y'all. We really got to listen to these kids. Now, the one thing that really stuck out to me on this report was studies have shown that if someone is spending an inordinate amount of time on electronics or screen time, that does seem to be associated with increased rates of depression. So paying attention to how much time your kids are utilizing social media or computers or things like that, that's also important. You got to pay attention, y'all. Like he said last week, get in their business. Now, to be fair, it's unclear just how much of a role social media plays in suicides, but a study earlier this year tied social media use with increased anxiety in young adults. Because what we have found out, y'all, is that teens are averaging more than 6.5 hours of screen time every day. That's 6.5 hours of screen time every day. Wow. Think about this. Teens who spend 3 hours a day or more on electronic devices are 35% more likely to have a risk factor for suicide. One piece of data that indirectly but stunningly captures kids growing in isolation for good or for bad is, since 2007, the homicide rate among teens has declined, but the suicide rate has increased. As teens have started spending less time together, they become more or less likely to kill one another, but more likely to kill themselves. In 2011, for the first time in 24 years, the teen suicide rate was higher than the teen homicide rate, and it has gotten higher since then. Now, right here, I want to play a clip that kind of backs up some of these facts, and I'll be back with more right after this.
We're keeping it 100, unfiltered, with the radio pundits, and we're unfiltered.
We turn now to a nationwide tragedy, suicide. A new report from the Centers for Disease Control says it is growing rapidly among teenagers. Since the year 2000, the suicide rate for teens is up 28%, with an average of 5 deaths a day. The suicide rate for girls and young women ages 15 to 19 has reached a 40-year high. Jerika Duncan looks into what's behind the rising teen toll.
He was just an all-around great kid. He was an athlete.
Jennifer Gonzalez says her 17-year-old son, Jack Farrell, seemed fine last Thanksgiving.
And the next day I get woken up by the police knocking on my door saying I needed to come with them right away. I found out then that he shot himself in the head.
New CDC data shows suicide rates for boys like Farrell, age 15 to 19, increased more than 30%. 3 years ago, Conrad Roy died in this truck from carbon monoxide poisoning after his friend, Michelle Carter, encouraged him to commit suicide through dozens of text messages. In a highly publicized trial, we learned both teens suffered from mental illness. The CDC also says suicide rates for teenage girls are at a 40-year high. Experts cite family instability and substance abuse among some factors for suicide, but the role of cyberbullying is becoming more prevalent. In June, 12-year-old Mallory Grossman took her own life. Her mother, Diane, says it was because she was harassed in texts, on Snapchat, and Instagram.
In the beginning, it was teasing. It was name-calling. It was exclusion was an important part. You can't sit here. You're not welcome at this table.
Professor Jean Twenge is a psychologist at San Diego State University.
Teens are much more likely now than they were just 5 years ago or 7 years ago to say that they're anxious and depressed and thinking about suicide.
In a provocative new article for The Atlantic, Twenge makes a correlation between the popularity of smartphones and increased rates of suicide and depression among young people.
Teens who use electronic devices more hours a day are more likely to be at risk for suicide.
Twenge says the so-called smartphone generation is less likely to have face-to-face interaction with friends, which she says is crucial for mental health and building social skills. Anthony?
Such a disturbing trend. Jerika, thank you.
We the radio pundits and we're unfiltered.
Hey everybody, this is Mary Wynn, and I'm locked into Unfiltered with Ernest J. Lee and Uncle Ron.
In the midst of my troubles, when I felt real feeble, when the devil took me to the peak, and it looks real bleak, no matter what the problem is, you may cry and ask why. Well, no matter what you're going through, Jesus will see you through. Jesus saved the day, took the pain away. Now I'm not the same. I'm so glad he came. I survived. Oh, yeah, yeah. I survived. I'm talking to the survivors out there. Let me encourage you right here. All kinds of sickness, troubled times, and job losses. Through it all, we're still here. In a world of uncertainty and pain, one thing's for sure, he will never leave. No matter what the problem is, you may cry and ask why. Well, no matter what you're going through, Jesus will see you through. says we are more than conquerors through him that loves us. So when the devil comes against you, tell him this: I survive, I survive. There's no fear in me. Yes, I survive.
Ooh, yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir. Now, look, I ain't bragging, but I done wrote a lot of songs in my day, but I think that might be one of my favorite ones that I've written. That was Mary Wynn right there with I Survived. How many survivors do I got out there? And I ain't trying to preach. I ain't going to take no text now, but how many survivors do I really have out there? Not just with suicide, but with just the things that you come through over your life. The late Bishop G.E. Patterson used to say, look over your shoulder and see how far you come. So I'm going to just tell you right now, as we take a little break in this show, before we go to the next segment, just look back over your shoulder and see how far you come. And wave that right hand in the air and say, thank God for being a survivor. Because you done came through some crazy stuff, some stuff that you got yourself in, some stuff that other people put you in. But nevertheless, you survived. So again, I Survived. That's Mary Wynn. That's available everywhere digital music is sold. And I thought I might pat myself on the back on that one. I wrote that. As y'all say, I did that. Anyway, back to business. Let me go on and bring my first guest on for the night. As promised, I do have my brother, Pastor Junaldo Lee of the Flow Church, located in Lilburn, Georgia. So I wanted to jump right back in here with him. Now, as it relates to church and pastors and ministry, we all have varying degrees of experience with that, and we also have varying opinions of it. But what better way to get it from a person that has been in ministry over 30 years? That's 3 decades. I'm sure that you, Pastor Lee, can give us some insight on the rigors that accompany those that are in ministry. A lot of our pastors are committing suicide. I think, man, you were talking at an earlier date about just why. I know there's a lot of reasons why, but give us just some, a pastoral insight of what you perceive this situation to be.
Well, thanks again, man. I've truly been enjoying this time on Unfiltered with you and Uncle Ron and the other guests that have been on. I tell you, I have been informed and helped myself and just doing research and going back over the years and just examining relationships with people and individuals that have come in and out of ministry and just knowing people, not even in ministry, but I think one of the main reasons, as you stated before, is that's a question why, but I believe mostly, Ernest and our radio listening audience, it's people are really crying out for help. That's what is coming to me tonight. People, I'm going off the cuff tonight. I don't have any notes or anything before me. I'm just talking, man. We're just going to flow. But I really believe people are crying out for help. And when you speak concerning pastors, as I am myself, it's like this. Who can a pastor turn to really? And that's a very important question to ask. We find in these days and times, again, as we spoke on last week, that, the camaraderie of brotherhood within the gospel, within the ranks of ministry is few and far between. I just feel like, people are, as I mentioned before, people are crying out in silence, that we're hurting in silence and don't know how to share or who can you talk to without being judged. Everyone is dealing with something, whether it be mentally, man, whether it be physically, emotionally, whether it be financially. Everybody doesn't have the same set of issues, but people are crying out. And it can lead into, when you can't talk to people sometimes, it's just frustration can build up in a person's lives, as we already know, which can bring on a bout of depression. And severe depression is always accompanied by a persuasive sense of suffering, as well as the belief that, escape from it is hopeless. And when you look at the pain of existence, it often becomes so severe that depressed people is hard to bear. So the state of depression, it actually warps a person's thinking and allows ideas to come in your head like, well, everyone would be better off without me. And you try to make a rational sense with this, but really, I was thinking about something. I read something about an individual who had said that they had never lost a family member or a friend to suicide, but they began to write about and talk about how even when a person leaves a note, a suicidal note, explaining why that they've committed suicide, there's still lingering questions out there that remain, like, were they really that desperate and wanted to die? What did they feel at that very moment? And a person's suicide often takes the people and it leaves them by surprise. People are surprised. Like, so what I'm saying is we need to tune in more so, man, and listening to what people are saying, and not just, if a person, especially if you've been around a person and you notice that their attitude or demeanor or conversation or moods have changed for a while. And, a lot of times when people get quiet, we need to stop what we're doing and really see about people and talk to them, because again, as I stated before, people are really crying out, man. So many people that have survived suicide attempts, they reported like this, that they wanted not so much to die. I felt that interesting, that they wanted not so much as to die, but to stop living, which is a strange dichotomy, but is very valid. So they're actually looking for some sort of in-between state, another alternative, so to speak, to death. I really believe, my own personal opinion, that a person would love if there was some in-between state of existence that, it's not so much that I want to die, but I want to stop living. Again, it's a strange dichotomy, but, I believe many people are looking for a way, man, just to escape, just to share what's really on their heart and on their mind. And if it's something that is so deep and so personal, again, who can you talk to, especially in the case of a pastor?
Right. I just feel like when you were saying that, that's just one of the many reasons why it's so important to have a group of people, or a group of pastors, even in your case, to have that fellowship with. Because listen, ministry is different on different levels, meaning what your church may go through, this other church may not go through. What that church over there may go through, this church over here may not go through. So it's not one specific reason why people are attempting suicide or even contemplating suicide. But there are steps to this thing. You don't just get from A to Z. You don't just get to Z right away. You got to go through 25 other letters to get there. So, my whole thing is, if we had some kind of dialogue, as you were just speaking of, or some kind of support, it would be, to me, those rates will probably not so high, because people will have an outlet to talk. And I just believe that it's important for those that are in leadership to talk about it. I mean, your church may be going through a financial thing right now. You don't have to, get overcome with bills, even in your own personal life. Those are real life situations, because killing yourself, like you said, it's not going to stop it. You just said something very key, that alternate state that you don't want to die, but you just want to stop living right now. But it's almost like seasons. I mean, that season will pass if you stay in there and roll with the punches. But some people can't roll with the punches. They're not built like that. I think Dr. Reese mentioned last week that some people are just not built to go through certain things.
And check this out. A lot of successful suicide attempts, really, some have been impulsive, to where a person has just set up and you just become so overwhelmed at a particular moment to where it just drives a person to suicide. And that's why, I know the last couple of weeks you've been giving out that suicide prevention number. And it's very important that we not get so caught up in church. And as we were talking about, we need to lay hands on somebody and pray for them. Some folks, they need to be medicated. But what is this saying to you and I and those that are listening? That we need to be more aware of our surroundings and people that we call associates or friends, or especially in ministry, and really hear what people are saying. People are, again, suffering in silence. I keep saying it. And people are going through bouts of depression, and some things are just impulsive. Maybe it's something that one has done to act that a person has committed in their lives, and it has become so overwhelming that it has driven that person into a drug addiction. See, this is a taboo subject, and there are going to be some things I'm going to be dealing with that is not going to be popular amongst church people, because we have to deal with the real. We have to get to the root of the problem. Some people that have titles, they're addicted to drugs, man. They're addicted to alcohol. They're addicted to certain things that, the church would down them about, but they're looking for a way of escape. And so what we'll say, because we do know what the scripture says. Now let's draw the line here. The scripture says that those that teach the word will be held in a higher regard or higher esteem than others. There's a greater responsibility on that. So there's a certain amount of pressure that pastor or that leader is up under, because of the expectation of people who are wanting them to be this Superman or this Superwoman that has all these supernatural powers, but don't really understand that these individuals have to deal with their own issues. And because you not really, when you go home and you tell yourself, man, I'm really not this Superman or this Superwoman that people think that I am, sometimes there's a place where you just say, man, I got to escape for a minute. I got to get away from this. And so so those times are very, very crucial that we have people in our lives, man, and I hope people are listening to this. Surround yourself with somebody who you can talk to, somebody that you can trust with. And I don't want to say trust with your secrets, because it's really not, this is not, you tell people, hey, can you keep a secret? That's just like you might as well just put it out in the open, because it's just the world we live in. But there has to be somebody, or you need somebody in your life, man, that when you're really going through something, that there would not come an impulsive reaction upon you to take your life.
I was just thinking when you were talking about that, being a musician, and I travel around a lot, and God has blessed me to work with some amazing people. What I'm about to say is I'm not saying it in a way of doubting. What I'm saying is I'm not what we call an A-list producer, meaning like I'm not in different cities every night. But I do travel a lot, and I do travel enough to know that when you get out of those studio sessions, or I've been with preachers that preach, and I've went back to the hotel, and I'm thinking like, man, you in this city, you don't know nobody, and everybody think that this life is so great to travel and all this kind of stuff, but it's really hectic, man. I mean, you got to preach, then you got to come off the stage, then you got to go to your hotel room, then you got to get back up for a lobby call in the morning, then you got to take your stuff to the next place. I mean, on top of just your everyday life, it is a lonely life, is what I'm trying to get to. I mean, I was just out of town a few weeks ago, and I was thinking like, man, okay, I had a great time today. The studio session was great. Now I'm back in my room, and it's 9:30. Like, I don't know nobody here. You know what I'm saying? Like, right. And so my whole thing is, that might sound like it's nothing, but great. Yeah, you can rest and you can get your thoughts together, but think about it. We were made for fellowship. So when you don't have anything to fellowship with, you basically only turning inward. And that's when you start thinking about all the problems you got, all the stuff you're dealing with. And as you just mentioned, if you got some kind of addiction or some kind of problem that's ongoing, you preaching the word, but then here yourself is dealing with the same thing you're preaching about. That is a lot of pressure. And I don't think people understand that the stuff that they ask for as far as this lifestyle or this ways to be able to travel and do this and be here and be there, there's a lot that comes with it on the back end that I don't think we're ready for.
Well, some individuals, again, we put, that's why you have to be very careful of allowing people to put you in a place of a God, put you in a place of some deity which can do no wrong. Because if God forbid, if that person, that leader or that individual takes a fall, then that person comes up under a heavy amount of scrutiny, a heavy amount. And think about this. We live in a social world. We live in a social world to where I'm telling you, there's nowhere you can go where people don't have their cameras out, their cell phones out. So there's always that factor of someone's watching you, someone's looking. Yep. So now you're dealing with these things, man. I just want to, sometimes, man, I just want to put my hat on backwards. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to wear my hat, my baseball cap. And guess what I do? I'm going to keep it real. I put my hat on backwards. I want to be who I am. I don't want a title to define me or define who I am. I'm going to laugh. I'm going to have fun. I'm going to do what I want to do. But then when you get to yourself and then you start hearing and thinking about not just other people's problems, but what they don't realize. If you remember, the Apostle Paul talked about these things. He talked about all the things that he had gone through himself, how he had been shipwrecked, how he had been beaten with many stripes, how he had been lost at sea. He talked about how he had went hungry and all of these things he talked about. And then at the end of the message, what he was relaying, he said that after all these things, he said, I have the daily cares of the church. I have the daily cares of myself. I mean, so that's what people put a lot of expectations. We put unrealistic expectations on pastors and leaders sometimes. And that within itself, if that leader's not very careful, you will play right into the hands of those who are lifting you up. Yeah. But God forbid, again, if you take a fall, they're the first ones to crucify you with their cameras out on social media, dissing you. So these things can lead a person into depression and can lead a person into something impulsive to where they say, you know what? I can't take the guilt anymore. I can't take the shame anymore. So I'm just going to end it all. I would rather just leave up out of here. Right. Again, not realizing that, and I'm going to say this, I just felt this by the Holy Spirit, that we have to understand this. If there's a pastor listening, there's a leader listening, or just the average person listening, there are more for you than who's against you. That's right. I'm going to say that again. There are more for you than who's against you. Again, suicide, as I've said the last 2 weeks, is wrong. It is wrong. And in many times it is selfish, but people are suffering and they're going into depression. And especially we're dealing in this segment here, we're talking about pastors and, the care that they have for the people. There's an amount of expectation that is placed on that pastor that sometimes he cannot bear. And so he has to be very careful that who can he talk to? Who can that pastor talk to? What if a pastor has a certain issue in their flesh? And who they going to tell?
Yeah. Right.
Because as soon as you tell somebody and try to be honest with them or whatever, then what are you going to do? You're going to be crucified. And these are things that people don't want to talk about. They'll crucify you and judge you, but they're dealing with the same things themselves. So That's why that pastor has to stay in the place to where his relationship with God is on the up and up, to where he goes before God or she goes before God and say, God, I'm dirty, God. I need some help. I need you to rescue me from me. And That's what I feel is going on with our leaders.
Man, this is so good. This topic has opened my eyes, even being on this platform, this radio platform, that we have the power to change situations with what we say. So I'm so glad that I was obedient to God to do this subject this month, because I was going to do something totally different, but I really wanted to take a more somber tone this month on this show, even though we have fun on the show. But these are things that you can't get around. And like you said, these are things that are happening right now as we speak. Someone is dealing with this right now. So I just encourage those that are listening, as Pastor Lee just said, do not sit there and just suffer in silence. You don't have to do it. There are people and avenues that can help you.
Can I say this? Yes. That please, those of you who listen, don't be afraid to go outside of the church for help.
Yes.
So that's why people have degrees, and this is their specialty. There are therapists out here, there are psychologists out here, psychiatrists that can help you, because again, these are people that don't know you. And that's the fear again. Sometimes, again, we're dealing with talking about pastors. Who can you go to? Sometimes you may need to step outside of the church, which I recommend, and go and seek help in that way.
I totally 100% agree. Listen, the Suicide Prevention Lifeline is 1-800-273-8255. 1-800-273-8255. Call that number. Talk to somebody. Go outside the box. Get help, because people are there to help you. This is what they get paid to do. So don't be afraid to speak out. And I just want to congratulate you before I let you go, Pastor Lee, on your show. I know you had your debut this week, and we're looking forward to great things on Monday nights at 9 p.m. Right there on iWorship96.com. I'm sure that program is going to skyrocket because you are in the flow, and that's what your show is called, In the Flow with Pastor Lee. So I want to thank you again, bro, on a professional level. I know we're brothers, but on a professional level, to come in and share this platform with me these last few weeks, man. Thank you, and much continued success to you, man. Love you.
Thank you. Love you as well.
All right. We'll be right back with more Unfiltered right after this, y'all. Keep it locked.
Hey, this is Uncle Ron, one half of the new show Unfiltered. Listen, do you want to advertise or even be featured on one of our shows? Make sure you reach out to us and let us know. Email us at theunfilteredradioshow@gmail.com. Also, if you have any show topics and or questions that you would like for us to tackle, please feel free to let us know. We would love to hear from you. Make sure you keep it locked right here on Holla.
We're the radio pundits and we're unfiltered.
Hey, y'all, what's up? We're back live right here on Unfiltered with Ernest, J. Lee, and Uncle Ron. We've been having a great discussion today, as always. I'm so happy to have my brother, the great Dr. Byron Reese, again with us this week. He's going to just give us some information. I know that this suicide thing is hitting the male demographic hard, from pastors to just regular people to teenagers to all races, all ages. They don't have no respect of persons. So I know there's no one reason why, but we know there's a myriad of different situations and different emotions that causes this suicide epidemic to rise amongst us. So, Brother William, what's up, man? How you doing?
What's up with you, Brother Ernest?
Man, I'm good, man. I ain't got no complaints, because nobody want to listen to it anyway, so just might well keep it going.
They never will.
Good, man.
Probably why we're here, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, hey, listen, man, I just want to tell you again, thank you so much for being on this panel this month, man. This month has been an eye-opening experience for me personally. Just, listening to you guys talk about this suicide stuff from a brilliant mind and, from a great informational standpoint. So, hey, let's go in, man. What's up with the men?
Well, there's always great things going on with men. Things that are positive, things that are good, things that motivate us. Mm-hmm. And with that comes responsibility. Mm-hmm. With that comes accountability. With that comes what some perceive as maybe negative attributes. negative proclivities, such as anger, resistance, rebelliousness. But that's called life, though. Many men have not been given those tools, gifts, necessities, universals, or existentials to be able to fight back. We have I would call maybe an intrinsic ability to fight back in the natural by doing things, by building things, by solving things. But that's always for the other person, for the wife, for the lover, for the child, for the community, for the church, for your job, for your career, for the home. Most times, yourself is on the back of the list.
Mm-hmm.
And even when it comes to ministry to self, I would think that sometimes it's negative. We call it self-soothing or numbing. Many men turn to drinking, drugs, excess of anything, sex, overworking as a way of numbing ourselves. And numbing yourself has great power. We're going to talk about it enough, so I say. When working with a lot of my male patients who have addictions, one of the first things I inquire of them, do you miss getting high? And they look at me like I'm crazy, because that's a controversial question, and it's out of the norm, if you will. But do you miss getting high? And I make them answer it. I don't want the God answer. I want the right answer.
Right.
And we go to the root of it. Most times it's yes. I miss the self-soothing. I miss the escape. I miss the feeling. And that's honesty. And most men are able to articulate in the right setting what makes them feel good. And again, I don't want the God answer.
Right.
We've been giving ourselves God answers for years.
There you go.
When we have therapy with me, you leave God outside in the parking lot.
Mm-hmm.
Because we can escape with God all day. God is good, and God, I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear about God. Mm-hmm. I want to hear about you. Mm-hmm. Now, if God shows up in your story, wonderful. Mm-hmm. But let's not make him the highlight. I want to hear about you, your needs. And when men really begin to talk about it, go back to your childhood. What does it mean to be a man? I think that's one of the existential questions that I give my patients, my parishioners, my friends, my people. So what does it mean? And that's a hard question to answer. It's a hard question to answer based on your culture, your worldview, your nationality, your ethnicity, your religion, your faith. All those answers are going to be different. And we as men must honor the varying differences of what it means to be a man.
So many people don't really know. And I know you said that, but that's just alarming to be a grown man now in 2018 and then not really know what it even really means to be a male. Let me say this, to understand what it means to be a male. Because we know what a male is, but do we understand what it really means? How did God really create us? His first commandment was to be fruitful and multiply and have dominion over the earth. So you got to go back to the whole purpose why you were created. And I think so many people can't find the purpose in it. So that's why turning to the things that are self-soothing is easier to do because they don't know their purpose in the first place.
If you don't understand that mandate, you can operate from a perspective of privilege. A lot of men believe they are natural-born leaders, and that's not what the scripture is saying. You're not a leader because you have a penis. And most women are not going for that crap. Mm-hmm. And most men who espouse that principle, they lack a whole lot of the qualities that make up what you may perceive as being masculine gifts. Trying to be dominant just because you're a male, but you don't qualify for, and I hate to use that word, domination, someone to submit to you. Mm-hmm. That's an ugly word in the black community because of our history of slavery. But that's all you hear in church and marriage. Submit to the pastor, submit to, come on, people, really? You can't submit to anyone unless you really know yourself.
True.
And then submission does not become just like you're not a doormat. It becomes the offering of yourself to another being. I think I just made that up. I like that.
That's good. That's good.
There was a metaphysical book I read years ago, like 20 years ago. It was called Giving Yourself Away. And it was very powerful because when you really know who you are, you're able to freely give. And if you don't know who you are, you're able to freely take. So there is that battle. Mm-hmm. if I really give in to my wife, does that make me inferior? Does that make us a B? Right. And that causes a great fear to men. They don't want to be known in their home as a B. Don't want to be known in the community as a B. They want to be known as a man. And the glory of it is how you perceive that concept, how you experience being a man subjectively, how you experience being a male heuristically for yourself, not necessarily through culture. And that's where a lot of the conflict arises. You find a lot of pathology in that area because people have told us for years what it means to be a man and how a man looks, how a man thinks, how he acts, what he does. I don't know if it's always from a proper perspective, holistic perspective. Some of those things are very, very, very detrimental to our sense of well-being. And we acted out based on what we saw and based on what we heard. And often it could be challenging, particularly to those of the opposite sex. It's probably what some people would term toxic masculinity now. And I don't like that term because it's taken out of context. But it only becomes toxic when you manipulate it or when you pervert it. And all of us have the ability to pervert our identities, if you will. We have that power.
Now, dealing with the suicide piece, a lot of people think that that's weakness as it relates to throwing in the towel or giving up. I think we don't understand that as men, we have emotions that need to be positively reinforced and dealt with. Do you come across those particular men in your practice that have a hard time showing emotion?
Not just in practice, but everywhere.
Okay.
But in practice, they find a safe space. Yeah, you probably end up crying in one of my first sessions, because you feel safe. So natural camaraderie, wherein you're not being judged. You're able to discuss some things that came up for you in your lifetime where you couldn't share with anyone else. Even your spouse, your wife might judge you. I've seen several men who were raped or molested as younger men in their teenage years. And they were able to work through it in therapy, told their wife or whatever, and they came for therapy. And it was a beautiful experience because they were able to work through a lot of those things that they had experienced in a safe setting. So we can't say that men don't cry or men don't show emotions. Well, that's correct. They don't show them to the world, but they show them in private spaces.
Gotcha.
People are always surprised when our greatest actors and our greatest comedians commit suicide. Well, their comedy, their humor, has been their greatest weapon or their greatest defense mechanism to keep people at bay.
Now, before we end this segment today, I wanted you to, for maybe 2 minutes, just speak to a person that may be dealing with emotions that are trapped inside them. Because a lot of times, trapped up emotions is what causes us to go inward and we refuse to come out and tell people what's really going on with us. Can you speak from a professional standpoint to that person that may be doing that right now?
Well, if the emotions are trapped, find out why. I'm huge on this. Get in touch with your body. And that's good for men, because we're all about the body. We're all about movement. We're all about building. We're all about action. Go to the gym. Go to the game. Get out and do something. Do something that's physical. Do something that makes that body sweat, that makes that body feel good. Open yourself up to a whole new world. First natural, then spiritual. And then you begin to find out, well, there's no significant line of demarcation between the body and the spirit. They work together to make you feel fulfilled or feel full or experiencing the fullness of God or the fullness of life or the fullness of self or the fullness of the Holy Ghost, depending on your worldview or your religiosity. And it gives you a sense of congruency, a sense of wholeness. The things we do every day can bring us joy. Doing something that really opens you up to new worlds and new thoughts. And then those emotions get out. Stop relying on others to make you feel whole. And I know God placed us in this earth to be in relationship with others. Yes, yes, yes. But it begins with you. Find out what works for you.
Man, that is amazing information. This is the reason why you got to have people like yourself come on these kind of platforms and just say what it is. We know that, we're Christian based. I mean, that goes without saying. But some stuff, like you just said, first the natural, then the spiritual. People, they so spiritual, they don't understand that most of the stuff they're dealing with is just in this natural plane, this natural realm. And people truly do perish for the lack of knowledge. But again, one has to want to get to know what's going on, get to know their bodies, as you say, get informed about the things that are affecting your way of life. So, today I'm so glad again that we were able to, do this segment, and we're going to come back next week and we're going to wrap this month up. That's going to be our last show on the suicide for now. With this suicide epidemic, if you're dealing with life's ills and you feel like you're losing hope, reach out and talk, man. Don't just sit there and just, let your life go. And I really appreciate you. And I'm looking forward to next week, man. We're going to turn this thing upside down one more time. It's been William Byron Reese, y'all, on the Unfiltered Show with Ernest, J. Lee, and Uncle Ron. And we'll be right back with more right after this. Don't touch that dial, y'all. All right?
What's up, y'all? This your boy Laurel, co-host of the Unfiltered Show with Ernest, J. Lee, and Uncle Ron. Listen, do you have a new single that you want played on air? Well, send it in and let us check it out. We're now accepting new music for our show. Also, if you have any music requests, send those in as well. Hit us up at the Unfiltered Radio Show at gmail.com. That's the Unfiltered Radio Show at gmail.com. Send us that new fire and let us make some joyful noise for the kingdom, y'all.
We the radio pundits and we're unfiltered.
What can I say, man? This has been another eye-opening chat today, another great show. And as I said again on last week, I'm so happy that we're helping to bring awareness and give insight to the subject. Man, these facts are just blowing me away. And today, my two guests brought it again. I truly, truly thank God for them and the job that they're doing in the kingdom and just with people in general. So many times we look around our lives and we see stuff ain't moving. We see stuff is still dead. We see stuff is still stagnant, but we refuse to give up some of the stuff that's holding us there. And some of those things are people. Some of those things are things, but most of the time it's us. It's old mindsets, old way of doing things, old habits, old relationships. Look, if it ain't bringing you happiness and adding to your life, it's subtracting. Let me say that one more time. Things in your life, people in your life can only add to you or subtract from you. When you look at it from that perspective, you'll understand that, hey, I got to make a decision. And sometimes more than not, it will be more easier to make that decision because hey, I got to have some movement. Aren't you tired of looking at the same old things around you? Aren't you tired of looking at the same old people around you? Do something different. Get up and do something. That vision that you have inside of you will die with you if you don't do something about it. Change comes from within. And sometimes you got to change the way you think about a situation. Real talk. So again, y'all, thanks for listening again this week. I pray that we did something, said something, played something that ministered to your soul and caused the Holy Spirit to leap inside you and know that you got to get up and do something, y'all. It's not going to just happen. Things don't just happen. You got to get up and make them happen. All right. So listen, y'all, until next week, this is Ernest J. Lee, and this has been Unfiltered. We'll be back with more on next week. Same time, same place. Now look, take care of yourselves out there, y'all. All right. I'll holler. Peace.